The morning started like any other on Naval Station Norfolk, with the sound of reveille cutting through the Virginia dawn and the steady rhythm of boots on concrete as personnel moved with practiced efficiency across the sprawling base. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez adjusted her uniform one final time before stepping into the medical building, her fingers unconsciously smoothing the fabric over areas where she knew the real story lay hidden beneath layers of carefully pressed cotton and regulation compliance. At 28, Sarah had already earned a reputation as one of the most dedicated logistics officers in her division. Her colleagues knew her as someone who arrived early, stayed late, and never complained about the mountain of supply chain challenges that seemed to grow larger each month. What they didn't know was that every morning began the same way for her, standing in front of her bathroom mirror, carefully positioning her undergarments and uniform to ensure that nothing showed, nothing hinted at the reality of what her body had endured and survived. The annual physical examination was a routine requirement, something every naval officer completed without much thought. For most, it meant a quick check of vital signs, a few standard questions about health and fitness, and a signature on a form declaring them fit for duty. For Sarah, it represented something far more complex, a careful dance between military necessity and personal privacy that she had performed successfully for 3 years running. Dr. Jennifer Chun had been conducting military physicals for over a decade, and she had developed an efficient system that respected both medical thoroughness and the natural discomfort many service members felt during these examinations. She was known for her professional demeanor, her ability to put patients at ease, and her strict adherence to protocol. What she wasn't prepared for was the appointment scheduled for 0930 hours that would fundamentally change how she understood the intersection of duty, privacy, and human dignity. Sarah arrived precisely on time, as was her custom for all professional obligations. She checked in with the corpsman at the front desk, took a seat in the waiting area, and reviewed the standard medical questionnaire she had filled out the night before. Her answers were consistent with previous years. No changes to medications, no new health concerns, no issues that would impact her ability to serve. The form, like her uniform, told only the story she was willing to share. When her name was called, Sarah followed Corpsman First Class Rodriguez down the familiar hallway to Examination Room 3. The routine was well established. Height, weight, blood pressure, basic questions about overall health and fitness. Rodriguez was efficient and professional, noting numbers on his clipboard with practiced precision. Everything proceeded according to schedule until he informed her that Dr. Chun was running slightly behind and had requested that Admiral Hayes conduct the examination instead. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow, though she managed to keep her expression neutral. Admiral William Hayes was not just any military physician. He was the commanding officer of the medical facility, a decorated naval officer with over 25 years of service, and someone whose presence commanded respect and attention wherever he went. More importantly, he was male, which transformed this routine procedure into something Sarah had never had to navigate before. Admiral Hayes entered the examination room with the bearing of someone accustomed to authority, but his demeanor immediately softened into the professional warmth he reserved for patient interactions. At 53, he had conducted thousands of medical examinations throughout his career, from emergency battlefield triage to routine physicals. He had earned his medical degree before joining the Navy, serving first as a field medic and gradually rising through the ranks while maintaining his clinical practice. His reputation was built on competence, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to the welfare of those under his care. "Good morning, Lieutenant Martinez," he said, settling into the chair across from the examination table and reviewing her medical file. "I apologize for the change in schedule. Dr. Chun had a family emergency, but I wanted to ensure your physical was completed on time since I know you have deployment preparations coming up." Sarah acknowledged his explanation with a professional nod, while internally calculating the implications of this unexpected development. Her deployment was indeed approaching, a 6-month assignment to the Mediterranean that represented a significant career opportunity and something she had worked toward for months. Missing or delaying this physical could potentially impact her eligibility, a complication she couldn't afford. The initial portion of the examination proceeded smoothly. Admiral Hayes conducted the standard assessments with professional efficiency, checking her reflexes, listening to her heart and lungs through her uniform blouse, and reviewing her medical history aloud to ensure accuracy. His manner was reassuring, and Sarah found herself relaxing slightly despite the unexpected circumstances. "Everything looks excellent so far, Lieutenant," he said, making notes in her file. "Your cardiovascular fitness scores are outstanding, and your overall health indicators are well within optimal ranges. I do need to complete the visual examination for any changes to skin condition, scars, or other concerns that might impact duty fitness. This is standard protocol, as I'm sure you're aware." Sarah's carefully maintained composure wavered for just a moment. She had prepared for this possibility for years, developing strategies and even practicing responses for various scenarios. But all her preparation had assumed she would be dealing with Dr. Chun, whose gender made the situation more manageable, not the commanding officer of the entire facility. "Of course, sir," she replied, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. "What do you need me to do?" Admiral Hayes gestured toward the examination table, his manner remaining professional and matter-of-fact. "If you could remove your blouse and undershirt, I'll complete the visual assessment quickly and efficiently. I know these examinations can be uncomfortable, and I appreciate your cooperation in helping us maintain proper medical records." Sarah moved toward the table, her fingers beginning to work on the buttons of her uniform blouse with movements that appeared calm and controlled. Inside, however, her mind was racing through a series of calculations and considerations that went far beyond simple compliance with medical protocol. Every piece of clothing she removed brought her closer to revealing truths she had successfully hidden for years, truths that could potentially change everything about how her colleagues, her supervisors, and her career trajectory were perceived. The blouse came off first, folded with military precision, and placed on the nearby chair. Her undershirt followed, leaving her standing in regulation undergarments that provided modest coverage while still allowing for the medical examination Admiral Hayes needed to conduct. She had positioned herself carefully, knowing that from his current angle, the most visible evidence of her history would not yet be apparent. Admiral Hayes approached with the clinical detachment he had developed over decades of medical practice, his focus entirely on completing a thorough and professional assessment. He examined her arms, back, and shoulders systematically, noting a few minor scars that were consistent with normal military service. Small marks from training exercises, a slightly more prominent scar from a childhood accident she had disclosed in previous medical records. "I need to check the torso area as well," he said, his tone remaining clinical and professional. "If you could turn slightly and lower your arms, I can complete this section of the examination." This was the moment Sarah had dreaded and prepared for in equal measure. She knew that compliance was not optional. Military medical examinations required complete cooperation, and any attempt to refuse or modify the procedure could result in serious consequences for her career and her upcoming deployment. She also knew that what Admiral Hayes was about to see would fundamentally change the dynamic of their interaction, though she couldn't predict exactly how. Sarah adjusted her position as requested, lowering her arms and turning to provide the access Admiral Hayes needed to complete his examination. As she did so, the carefully constructed barriers between her private history and her military service began to dissolve. The scars she had hidden for so long became visible, not the minor marks of ordinary military service, but something far more significant and personal. The silence in the room became profound as Admiral Hayes's clinical examination revealed the extensive scarring along Sarah's ribs, marks that told a story no medical training had fully prepared him to encounter in this context. These were not the scars of combat or training accidents, but evidence of something far more personal and devastating, the physical reminders of a battle fought not against foreign enemies, but against her own body in the most intimate and frightening way possible. Admiral Hayes had seen thousands of scars during his medical career, had treated wounded warriors returning from combat zones, had conducted examinations on personnel who bore the physical marks of their service in various forms. But the pattern and nature of the scarring he was observing spoke to a different kind of warfare entirely, one fought in hospital rooms and recovery wards, marked not by enemy fire but by the surgeon's scalpel and the complex mathematics of survival. The examination room, which moments before had been filled with the routine efficiency of military medical protocol, now held a different kind of tension. Sarah remained motionless in her required position, waiting for some indication of how Admiral Hayes would process what he was seeing, how it might impact her medical clearance, and what questions might follow that would require her to verbalize experiences she had successfully kept private for years. Admiral Hayes continued his examination with professional thoroughness, his movements careful and respectful as he documented what he observed. But Sarah could sense a subtle shift in his demeanor, a recognition that this was no longer a routine physical examination, but an encounter with something far more significant. A moment where military protocol intersected with profound human experience in ways that demanded more than standard medical procedures could address. When Admiral Hayes finally spoke, his voice carried none of the clinical detachment that had characterized their interaction thus far. Instead, there was something deeper, a recognition of the courage it had taken for Sarah to be standing there, the trust she was placing in the system they both served, and the responsibility he now bore to honor both her service and her humanity. "Lieutenant Martinez," he said quietly, his words carrying the weight of genuine respect and understanding. "Thank you for your service, and thank you for trusting me with this examination. I want you to know that what I'm seeing here speaks to a kind of courage that goes far beyond what most people will ever be called upon to demonstrate." As Sarah began to process the Admiral's words, she realized that this moment, which she had dreaded for years, was beginning to unfold in ways she had never imagined possible. The silence she had feared was being filled not with judgment or clinical indifference, but with something approaching genuine human recognition of what she had endured and overcome. The examination continued, but both participants understood that something fundamental had shifted. This was no longer simply a matter of medical protocol and career requirements. It had become an encounter between two people who served the same institution, shared the same commitment to duty and honor, but were now confronting the complex ways that personal history, professional obligation, and human dignity intersected in the most unexpected moments. What neither of them realized was that this single appointment would set in motion a series of events that would challenge everything they thought they knew about leadership, courage, and the true meaning of serving with honor. The scars Sarah had hidden for so long were about to become the catalyst for changes that would ripple through the highest levels of military leadership, transforming not just their own understanding, but the lives of countless others who had fought similar battles in silence and solitude. Admiral Hayes finished his examination with meticulous care, documenting his findings with the thoroughness that had characterized his entire medical career. But as he completed the standard protocol, his mind was processing far more than the clinical observations required for Sarah's fitness determination. The scarring he had observed was extensive and spoke to a medical journey that had required extraordinary strength and determination, qualities that aligned perfectly with everything he knew about Lieutenant Martinez's professional performance. Sarah maintained her position throughout the remainder of the examination, grateful for Admiral Hayes's respectful approach, but acutely aware that her carefully guarded privacy had been irrevocably altered. When he indicated that she could dress, she did so with the same efficient movements that characterized all her military activities, though her mind was racing with questions about what would happen next, how this information might be documented, and whether her deployment status could be affected. "Lieutenant, please have a seat when you're ready," Admiral Hayes said, settling back into his chair and organizing her medical file. "I want to discuss a few things with you, and I want to make sure you understand exactly how this examination will be documented and what it means for your continued service." Sarah took her seat, her posture maintaining the professional bearing that had become second nature during her years of service. She had prepared for this conversation in various forms, though never imagining it would take place with someone of Admiral Hayes's rank and authority. The power dynamics at play were complex. He was not only her superior officer, but also the medical professional responsible for determining her fitness for duty. "Sir, I want to assure you that my medical history has never interfered with my ability to perform my duties, she began, her voice steady despite the emotional complexity of the moment. I've maintained excellent fitness standards, completed all training requirements, and my performance evaluations have consistently exceeded expectations. Whatever you observe today shouldn't impact my deployment eligibility. Admiral Hayes nodded thoughtfully, his expression conveying both professional consideration and genuine respect for her concerns. Lieutenant, I've reviewed your service record extensively, and I'm well aware of your outstanding performance across all metrics. Your dedication to excellence is evident not only in your work, but in how you've handled what I can only imagine has been an incredibly challenging personal journey. He paused, choosing his words carefully. What I observed today indicates that you've undergone significant medical treatment, likely involving major surgical procedures. The scarring pattern suggests a complex medical history that required considerable courage to navigate while maintaining your military commitments. I want you to understand that my role here is to ensure you receive the support you need to continue serving effectively, not to create obstacles to your career advancement. Sarah felt a mixture of relief and vulnerability as Admiral Hayes spoke. His words suggested an understanding that went beyond simple medical documentation, but she remained cautious about revealing too much detail about experiences she had worked hard to process privately. I appreciate your perspective, sir, she replied. I underwent treatment for a serious medical condition several years ago, before my current assignment. The treatment was successful, and I've been cleared by oncology specialists for full activity with no restrictions. I've maintained regular follow-up appointments, and my prognosis remains excellent. The word oncology hung in the air between them, carrying with it the full weight of what Sarah had endured and survived. Admiral Hayes had suspected as much based on his clinical observations, but hearing her confirm the nature of her medical journey added another layer of respect for the woman sitting across from him. How old were you when you received your diagnosis? He asked gently, his question emerging from genuine medical concern rather than mere curiosity. 24, sir. I was in my second year of active duty, stationed in San Diego. I found the lump during a routine self-examination and followed proper protocol for seeking immediate medical attention. The diagnosis came back as stage 2 breast cancer, which required aggressive treatment, including surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy. Admiral Hayes made notes in her file, but his focus remained primarily on Sarah herself. That's an extraordinary burden to carry while maintaining military service. How did you manage your treatment while fulfilling your duty obligations? Sarah's response revealed the careful planning and determination that had characterized her entire approach to managing her diagnosis alongside her naval career. I was fortunate to receive treatment at Naval Medical Center San Diego, which allowed me to maintain my military status while undergoing therapy. My commanding officer at the time, Captain Rebecca Torres, worked with the medical team to modify my duties during treatment periods while ensuring I could continue contributing to our mission. The mention of Captain Torres sparked recognition in Admiral Hayes' memory. He knew Rebecca Torres by reputation, an exceptional officer known for her innovative leadership style and her commitment to supporting personnel through challenging circumstances. If Torres had been willing to advocate for Sarah during her treatment, it spoke volumes about both Sarah's character and her value as a naval officer. Captain Torres has an excellent reputation for leadership and personnel development, Admiral Hayes observed. Her willingness to work with you during treatment suggests she recognized your potential for continued service even under extremely difficult circumstances. Yes, sir. Captain Torres was instrumental in helping me understand that my diagnosis didn't have to mean the end of my naval career. She connected me with other military personnel who had successfully navigated similar challenges, and she helped me develop strategies for managing treatment side effects while maintaining my professional responsibilities. Admiral Hayes was beginning to understand the full scope of what Sarah had accomplished. Managing cancer treatment while serving in the military required not only physical resilience, but extraordinary mental strength and organizational skills. The fact that she had not only survived, but continued to excel in her service spoke to qualities that went far beyond standard military competency. Tell me about your recovery process and how you transitioned back to full duty status, he requested, recognizing that understanding her complete medical journey will be essential for making informed decisions about her current fitness and future assignments. Sarah's response revealed the methodical approach she had brought to every aspect of her treatment and recovery. The initial surgery was performed in early 2019, followed by 4 months of chemotherapy and 6 weeks of radiation therapy. Throughout treatment, I maintained modified duties that allowed me to contribute while accommodating medical appointments and managing side effects. My oncologist, Dr. Michael Harrison, worked closely with Navy medical personnel to ensure my treatment plan was compatible with military service requirements. She continued, recovery was challenging both physically and emotionally, but I was determined to return to full duty status. I worked with physical therapy specialists to rebuild my strength and endurance, gradually increasing my fitness activities until I could meet all standard military requirements. By early 2020, I was cleared for unrestricted duty and have maintained excellent health status ever since. Admiral Hayes was impressed by the thoroughness of her recovery approach and the obvious commitment she had made to returning to full military effectiveness. What about ongoing medical surveillance? I assume you continue to have regular follow-up appointments with oncology specialists. Yes, sir. I have quarterly examinations with Dr. Harrison at Naval Medical Center Portsmouth, which is convenient to my current duty station. All recent tests have shown no evidence of recurrence, and my prognosis continues to be excellent. I've been cancer-free for over 4 years, and the statistical probability of recurrence continues to decrease with each passing month. Admiral Hayes made additional notes in her file, but his primary focus was on ensuring that Sarah understood the implications of their conversation for her immediate and long-term military service. Lieutenant, based on everything you've shared and what I've observed during today's examination, I see no medical reason why you shouldn't be cleared for your upcoming deployment. Your recovery appears to be complete, and your commitment to maintaining optimal health is evident. The relief in Sarah's expression was subtle but noticeable. The deployment to the Mediterranean represented a significant career opportunity, and she had worked extensively to prepare for the assignment. Knowing that her medical history wouldn't create obstacles was enormously important for her professional trajectory. However, Admiral Hayes continued, I want to discuss some broader considerations about how your experience might be valuable to our organization and to other military personnel who may face similar challenges. Sarah wasn't certain where this conversation was heading, but she recognized that Admiral Hayes was approaching the topic with genuine thoughtfulness rather than mere administrative necessity. Sir, I'm not sure I understand what you're suggesting. Admiral Hayes leaned forward slightly, his demeanor shifting from clinical examination to leadership consultation. Lieutenant, you've demonstrated extraordinary resilience and leadership in managing a life-threatening medical condition while continuing to serve with distinction. That combination of experience and capability represents a valuable resource for our organization. I'm wondering whether you've ever considered how your journey might benefit other military personnel who face similar diagnoses. The suggestion was unexpected, but Sarah found herself intrigued by the possibilities Admiral Hayes was outlining. I've occasionally thought about reaching out to other military cancer patients, but I wasn't sure whether that would be appropriate given privacy considerations and the need to maintain professional boundaries. What if those boundaries could be navigated appropriately with proper organizational support and clear guidelines for engagement? Admiral Hayes asked, I'm thinking about the possibility of developing a peer support program that would connect military cancer patients with personnel who have successfully navigated similar journeys. Your experience, combined with your obvious communication skills and leadership capabilities, could make an enormous difference for people who are facing the same fears and uncertainties you once confronted. Sarah considered the proposal carefully, recognizing both the potential value and the personal vulnerability it would require. That's an interesting possibility, sir. I can certainly see how such a program might be beneficial, though I would want to ensure that participating wouldn't compromise my own privacy or interfere with my primary duty obligations. Admiral Hayes nodded appreciatively. Absolutely. Any such program would need to be carefully designed to protect participant privacy while maximizing the support value. I'm not suggesting immediate implementation, but rather encouraging you to consider whether this might be something you'd be interested in exploring after your deployment, when you have time to think through the implications and possibilities. The conversation was opening up avenues Sarah had never seriously considered, though she found herself genuinely interested in the potential for helping others navigate challenges similar to those she had faced. I appreciate you raising this possibility, sir. I'd definitely be interested in learning more about how such a program might be structured and what kinds of support would be available for participants. Admiral Hayes made final notes in her medical file, then closed it with a definitive gesture that signaled the completion of their formal examination. Lieutenant Martinez, you're cleared for deployment with no medical restrictions. Your fitness for duty is excellent, and your commitment to service is exemplary. I want you to know that today's conversation has reinforced my respect for your character and my confidence in your continued contributions to our organization. As Sarah prepared to leave, Admiral Hayes added one final thought that would stay with her long after she left the examination room. You know, Lieutenant, courage comes in many forms. The courage you've demonstrated in fighting for your health while maintaining your commitment to service represents something truly remarkable. Thank you for trusting me with your story, and thank you for showing all of us what real strength looks like. Walking back across the base that afternoon, Sarah reflected on how dramatically different the day had unfolded compared to her expectations. What had begun as a routine medical appointment had evolved into something far more significant. A conversation about leadership, service, and the ways that personal experience could be transformed into organizational value. For the first time in years, she found herself considering the possibility that the very experiences she had worked so hard to keep private might actually represent her greatest potential contribution to the military community she served. 3 weeks later, Sarah was aboard the USS Hampton, a Virginia-class submarine conducting reconnaissance operations in the eastern Mediterranean. The deployment had begun exactly as planned, with her logistics expertise proving essential to the complex coordination required for extended underwater operations. But despite the demanding nature of her duties, she found herself frequently thinking about her conversation with Admiral Hayes and the possibilities he had outlined for peer support programs. The confined environment of submarine duty provided ample time for reflection during off-duty hours, and Sarah began to consider more seriously how her personal experience might be transformed into something that could benefit others facing similar challenges. She had always been a private person, preferring to handle difficulties independently rather than seeking external support. But Admiral Hayes' suggestion had planted a seed of possibility that continued to grow during the long hours beneath the Mediterranean waters. Meanwhile, back at Naval Station Norfolk, Admiral Hayes was having conversations of his own that would ultimately intersect with Sarah's journey in unexpected ways. His encounter with Lieutenant Martinez had prompted him to research the prevalence of cancer diagnoses among military personnel and the support systems currently available for those facing such challenges. What he discovered was both troubling and motivating. The statistics revealed that military personnel face cancer rates similar to the general population, but often encountered unique challenges in accessing treatment and maintaining career continuity during medical crises. The demanding nature of military service, combined with frequent relocations and deployment schedules, created obstacles that civilian cancer patients rarely had to navigate. Yet the support systems specifically designed for military cancer patients were limited and often inadequate for addressing the complex intersection of medical needs and professional obligations. Admiral Hayes began reaching out to colleagues at other military medical facilities, seeking to understand how different installations approach cancer care for active duty personnel. His inquiries revealed a patchwork of individual initiatives and informal support networks, but no coordinated program that systematically addressed the unique needs of military cancer patients across all service branches. Dr. Patricia Williams, the Chief of Oncology at Naval Medical Center Portsmouth, became a key collaborator in Admiral Hayes' emerging vision for improved cancer support services. Dr. Williams had treated numerous military personnel over a 15-year career and had observed firsthand the challenges they faced in balancing medical treatment with service obligations. The isolation factor is enormous, Dr. Williams explained during one of their planning discussions. Civilian cancer patients typically have access to robust support networks, family counseling services, and peer support groups. Military personnel often face their diagnosis far from family support systems, with limited access to specialized services and with the added stress of wondering how treatment might impact their career trajectory. Admiral Hayes shared his experience with Lieutenant Martinez, emphasizing how her successful navigation of cancer treatment while maintaining military service had demonstrated the possibility for positive outcomes when appropriate support was available. She managed her situation exceptionally well, but largely through individual determination and informal support from her commanding officer at the time. Imagine what might be possible if we could systematize that kind of support and make it available to every military cancer patient. Dr. Williams was immediately interested in the concept. A peer support program could be incredibly valuable, particularly if we could connect newly diagnosed patients with personnel who have successfully completed treatment and returned to full duty. The psychological impact of seeing someone who has navigated the same challenges and come out stronger could be enormous. Together, they began developing the framework for what would eventually become the Military Cancer Navigator Program, a comprehensive support system that would connect newly diagnosed military personnel with trained peer counselors who had successfully completed cancer treatment while maintaining their military careers. The program would address not only medical and emotional support needs, but also practical concerns about career management, deployment scheduling, and family support during treatment. The research phase took several months, during which Admiral Hayes maintained regular communication with Sarah through official channels. Her deployment reports consistently highlighted her exceptional performance in challenging conditions, reinforcing his conviction that her experience and capabilities would be valuable assets for any peer support initiative. When Sarah returned from deployment in late fall, Admiral Hayes requested a meeting to discuss the progress he had made in developing the cancer support program concept. The meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon in his office, a more informal setting than the medical examination room where their initial conversation had taken place. Lieutenant Martinez, welcome back. Admiral Hayes greeted her warmly as she entered his office. I trust your deployment was successful. Yes, sir, very successful. The Hampton crew performed exceptionally well, and I was grateful for the opportunity to contribute to such an important mission. Sarah's response reflected her genuine satisfaction with the deployment experience, but Admiral Hayes could detect underlying curiosity about the purpose of this meeting. I'm glad to hear that. Your reputation for excellence continues to grow, which actually relates to why I asked you here today. Admiral Hayes gestured for her to take a seat in one of the comfortable chairs arranged near his desk. I've been working on developing the cancer support program we discussed before your deployment, and I wanted to update you on our progress and explore your potential interest in participating. Sarah settled into her chair, her attention fully focused on what Admiral Hayes was about to share. I've thought about our conversation frequently during the deployment, sir. I'm definitely interested in learning more about what you've developed. Admiral Hayes opened a folder containing the preliminary program proposal and began outlining the key components he and Dr. Williams had designed. We're calling it the Military Cancer Navigator Program, and the concept is built around peer support from military personnel who have successfully completed cancer treatment while maintaining their service careers. The program would provide newly diagnosed personnel with practical guidance, emotional support, and advocacy assistance throughout their treatment journey. He continued, navigators would be volunteers who have completed cancer treatment, returned to full duty status, and demonstrated leadership capabilities within their military specialties. They would receive specialized training in peer counseling techniques, privacy protection protocols, and resource navigation skills. Most importantly, they would provide living proof that military cancer patients can not only survive their diagnosis, but continue to thrive in their service careers. Sarah listened intently as Admiral Hayes described the program structure, training requirements, and support systems that would be available for both navigators and the patients they would serve. The concept was more comprehensive than she had imagined, addressing not only emotional and practical support needs, but also career advocacy and family assistance services. This sounds incredibly valuable, sir, she responded thoughtfully. I can see how such a program would have been enormously helpful during my own treatment period. The isolation and uncertainty about career implications were almost as challenging as the medical aspects of my diagnosis. Admiral Hayes nodded. That's exactly the feedback we've received from other military cancer survivors we've consulted during the development process. The program is designed to address those exact concerns while ensuring that participants maintain their privacy and professional standing. He opened another section of his proposal folder. I want to be transparent about what participation as a navigator would involve. The time commitment would be approximately 8 hours per month, including training sessions, individual consultation time with assigned patients, and participation in program development activities. Navigators would typically be assigned 2 to 3 patients at any given time, providing support throughout their treatment period and initial recovery phase. Sarah asked several detailed questions about training requirements, supervision structures, and the process for matching navigators with patients. Admiral Hayes's responses demonstrated the thorough planning that had gone into program development and his commitment to ensuring that both navigators and patients received appropriate support throughout their participation. What about potential career implications for navigators? Sarah inquired. I want to make sure that volunteering for this program wouldn't be viewed negatively by command structures or impact advancement opportunities. Admiral Hayes had anticipated this concern and had developed specific strategies to address it. Navigator participation would be documented as leadership and community service contributions, which are positive factors in advancement evaluations. Additionally, the program has preliminary support from senior leadership across multiple service branches, which should ensure that participation is viewed favorably rather than as a potential liability. The conversation continued for over an hour as Admiral Hayes outlined implementation timelines, funding sources, and approval processes that would be required to launch the program officially. Sarah found herself increasingly excited about the possibility of contributing to such an initiative, recognizing both the personal meaning it would hold for her and the potential impact it could have for others facing similar challenges. Sir, I'm very interested in participating as a navigator, she said finally. This program represents everything I wished had been available during my own treatment, and I believe my experience could be valuable for others navigating similar circumstances. The Navigator training program began on a cold January morning in the conference room of the Naval Medical Center Portsmouth, with 6 military personnel representing various service branches and cancer experiences gathered around a polished mahogany table. Sarah arrived early, as was her custom, and took time to observe her fellow Navigator trainees as they assembled for their first formal session together. Master Sergeant David Rodriguez from the Air Force had completed treatment for testicular cancer 3 years earlier and now served as a training instructor at Langley Air Force Base. His quiet confidence and obvious leadership experience made him a natural fit for peer counseling work. Captain Maria Santos from the Army had survived lymphoma while stationed in Germany and brought valuable perspective about managing cancer treatment while stationed overseas. The group also included Navy Petty Officer First Class James Wright, Marine Staff Sergeant Angela Thompson, and Coast Guard Petty Officer Second Class Michael Chun, each bringing unique experiences and perspectives to the developing program. Dr. Patricia Williams opened the training session by outlining the program's mission and core principles. The Military Cancer Navigator program is built on the understanding that peer support from someone who has successfully navigated similar challenges can be uniquely powerful for newly diagnosed military cancer patients. As navigators, you will serve as living proof that cancer diagnosis doesn't have to end military careers, while providing practical guidance and emotional support throughout the treatment journey. The initial training modules cover topics ranging from basic counseling techniques and active listening skills to privacy protection protocols and resource navigation within military healthcare systems. Sarah found the training both professionally engaging and personally meaningful as it provided structure and formal recognition for support activities she had occasionally provided informally to colleagues over the years. Dr. Williams emphasized the importance of maintaining appropriate boundaries between navigators and the patients they would serve. Your role is to provide peer support and practical guidance, not clinical advice or medical consultation. You'll work closely with medical teams, but your primary value lies in your lived experience and your ability to help patients understand what successful navigation of cancer treatment while maintaining military service actually looks like. The training program included detailed instruction on recognizing signs of depression, anxiety, and other mental health concerns that commonly accompany cancer diagnosis, along with protocols for connecting patients with appropriate professional mental health services when needed. Sarah appreciated the comprehensive approach to training, recognizing that effective peer support required skills that went far beyond simply sharing personal experiences. Admiral Hayes visited the training sessions regularly, both to monitor program development and to provide administrative support for the navigator cohort. His presence reinforced the institutional commitment to the program while ensuring that navigators understood the level of support available from military leadership. This program represents a fundamental shift in how we approach cancer care for military personnel, he explained during one of his visits to the training group. We're moving beyond simply providing excellent medical treatment to creating comprehensive support systems that address the unique challenges military cancer patients face. Each of you is contributing to something that will ultimately impact thousands of military personnel and their families. As the training program progressed, Sarah found herself developing strong professional relationships with her fellow navigators. The shared experience of cancer survival created natural bonds, but their diverse military backgrounds and service specialties enriched the learning experience for everyone involved. Master Sergeant Rodriguez brought insights about managing cancer treatment while maintaining security clearances, while Captain Santos shared strategies for navigating international healthcare systems during overseas assignments. The group began practicing peer support techniques through role-playing exercises that simulated various scenarios they might encounter with future patients. Sarah discovered that her natural communication skills and analytical approach to problem-solving translated well to peer counseling work. She was particularly effective at helping trainees think through practical challenges related to duty modifications, deployment scheduling, and career planning during treatment periods. Dr. Williams observed Sarah's performance during training exercises with increasing appreciation for her potential impact as a navigator. Lieutenant Martinez, you have a remarkable ability to combine empathy with practical problem-solving, she noted during one feedback session. Your approach to helping others think through complex decisions while respecting their autonomy is exactly what we hope to achieve through this program. The training culminated with the development of individual navigator portfolios that included resource guides, communication protocols, and personal narratives that could be shared with patients when appropriate. Sarah's portfolio included a detailed timeline of her own treatment journey, emphasizing decision-making strategies, support resources, and career management techniques that had contributed to her successful outcome. In March, the program officially launched with the assignment of the first patient to each navigator. Sarah was matched with Petty Officer Second Class Jessica Chun, a 26-year-old intelligence specialist who had recently been diagnosed with cervical cancer while stationed at Naval Station Mayport in Florida. The matching process had considered factors including age, gender, duty specialty, and geographic location to optimize the support relationship. Sarah's first conversation with Jessica took place via secure video conference, a technology that enabled navigator support across geographic distances while maintaining privacy and security requirements. Jessica appeared anxious but determined, her military bearing evident even in the challenging circumstances of her recent diagnosis. Petty Officer Chun, I'm Lieutenant Martinez, and I'm honored to be working with you as your navigator during this challenging time, Sarah began, her tone warm but professional. I want to start by acknowledging that receiving a cancer diagnosis while serving in the military creates unique concerns and challenges that civilian support resources often don't fully understand. Jessica's relief at speaking with someone who immediately grasped the military context of her situation was evident. Lieutenant, thank you for being available. I've been struggling with so many questions about how this diagnosis might impact my security clearance, my advancement opportunities, and my upcoming deployment to Bahrain. The medical team is excellent, but they don't really understand the military career implications. Sarah recognized the familiar concerns and was prepared to address them based on both her personal experience and her navigator training. Those are exactly the kinds of questions I faced during my own cancer treatment 4 years ago. The good news is that cancer diagnosis and treatment don't automatically impact security clearances or career advancement, though there are specific protocols for managing these concerns that I can help you navigate. The conversation continued for an hour as Sarah provided Jessica with detailed information about medical leave policies, duty modification procedures, and communication strategies for working with command structures during treatment. She also shared her personal timeline and decision-making process, helping Jessica understand what successful navigation of cancer treatment while maintaining military service actually looked like in practice. The most important thing I learned during my treatment was that you don't have to choose between taking care of your health and maintaining your military career, Sarah emphasized. The key is understanding how to work within military systems to ensure you get the treatment you need while preserving your professional standing and advancement opportunities. Jessica's questions revealed both her intelligence and her determination to handle her diagnosis as effectively as possible. How did you manage the physical demands of military service during treatment? I'm concerned about maintaining fitness standards and meeting deployment requirements. Sarah had anticipated this concern and was prepared with specific guidance. Treatment side effects vary significantly between individuals and treatment types, but there are established protocols for modifying physical fitness requirements during medical treatment. The goal is maintaining your overall health and fitness while accommodating the temporary limitations that treatment may create. She continued, I worked with medical personnel and my command structure to develop modified fitness plans that kept me active without compromising my treatment or recovery. By the time I completed treatment, I was actually in better physical condition than before my diagnosis because I had learned to approach fitness more strategically. The navigator relationship with Jessica developed over the following months as she progressed through surgery, chemotherapy, and recovery phases. Sarah provided guidance on managing treatment side effects while maintaining duty performance, strategies for communicating with supervisors about medical needs, and emotional support during the challenging periods that accompany cancer treatment. Dr. Williams monitored the navigator relationships closely, conducting regular check-ins with both navigators and patients to assess program effectiveness and identify areas for improvement. Her evaluations consistently highlighted Sarah's exceptional performance as a navigator, particularly her ability to provide comprehensive practical guidance while maintaining appropriate emotional support. Sarah has demonstrated remarkable skill in helping patients think through complex decisions while respecting their autonomy and personal values, Dr. Williams noted in one evaluation report. Her combination of military expertise, cancer survival experience, and natural counseling abilities makes her an exceptional navigator who consistently achieves positive outcomes with her assigned patients. The success of Sarah's work with Jessica led to additional patient assignments, and within 6 months, she was supporting 3 military cancer patients simultaneously while maintaining her regular duty obligations. The time commitment was significant, but Sarah found the navigator work deeply meaningful and professionally rewarding. Admiral Hayes continued to monitor the program's development and was particularly interested in Sarah's emerging role as an informal leader within the navigator cohort. Her analytical skills and strategic thinking made her valuable for program development activities beyond direct patient support. Lieutenant Martinez, I've been following your navigator work, and I'm consistently impressed by both your patient outcomes and your contributions to program development, he said during one of their regular progress meetings. I'm wondering whether you might be interested in taking on additional responsibilities related to program expansion and training development. The suggestion opened up possibilities Sarah hadn't previously considered. What kind of additional responsibilities are you thinking about, sir? Admiral Hayes outlined his vision for expanding the Navigator program to additional military installations and service branches, work that would require experienced navigators to serve as training instructors and program coordinators. Your combination of navigator experience, military leadership skills, and communication abilities makes you an ideal candidate for helping to scale this program across the military healthcare system. Sarah found herself intrigued by the possibility of contributing to program expansion, recognizing both the professional opportunities it would represent and the potential impacts such work could have for military cancer patients throughout the system. I'm very interested in learning more about these possibilities, sir. The Navigator program has been incredibly rewarding, and I'd welcome the opportunity to help expand its reach and effectiveness. Admiral Hayes smiled, clearly pleased by her response. I thought you might be. Let's schedule some time to discuss specific opportunities and timelines. I have a feeling this is just the beginning of your contributions to military cancer care. As Sarah left the meeting, she reflected on how completely her perspective on her cancer experience had transformed. What had begun as a private medical challenge she navigated while maintaining her military career had evolved into a meaningful contribution to improving cancer care for military personnel throughout the system. The journey from patient to navigator to program leader represented a transformation she could never have imagined during her darkest moments of treatment. Yet it felt like a natural extension of her commitment to military service and her desire to help others facing similar challenges. 2 years after that pivotal medical examination, Sarah found herself standing at a podium in the main auditorium of the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, preparing to address an audience of over 300 military healthcare professionals, cancer survivors, and senior military leaders. The occasion was the national launch of the Military Cancer Navigator program, which had grown from Admiral Hayes' initial vision into a comprehensive support system serving all branches of the armed forces. As she adjusted the microphone and looked out at the assembled audience, Sarah reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought her to this moment. Her gaze found Admiral Hayes in the front row, his expression conveying both professional pride and personal satisfaction with how far the program had evolved. Beside him sat Dr. Williams, whose clinical expertise had been essential to the program's development, and the original Navigator cohort, each of whom had played crucial roles in refining and expanding the initiative. Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this important milestone in military cancer care, Sarah began, her voice carrying the confidence and authority she had developed through years of Navigator work and program leadership. Today we celebrate not just the national launch of the Military Cancer Navigator program, but the transformation of how our military community supports personnel facing cancer diagnosis and treatment. She paused, allowing her words to resonate with the diverse audience before continuing. 3 years ago, I was a lieutenant undergoing a routine physical examination, concerned primarily with concealing the evidence of my cancer treatment and ensuring my medical history didn't impact my career advancement. Today, I stand before you as the National Director of Navigator Programs, proud to represent an initiative that has fundamentally changed how military cancer patients experience diagnosis, treatment, and recovery. The audience included military personnel from every service branch, representing different ranks, specialties, and personal experiences with cancer. Sarah had learned to tailor her presentations to such diverse groups, emphasizing both the practical benefits of Navigator support and the broader implications for military readiness and personnel welfare. The Military Cancer Navigator program is built on a simple but powerful premise. Military cancer patients face unique challenges that require specialized support from people who understand both the medical and military aspects of their journey. Civilian support systems, no matter how excellent, cannot fully address the concerns about security clearances, deployment schedules, career advancement, and duty modifications that military cancer patients must navigate alongside their medical treatment. She clicked to the first slide of her presentation, displaying statistics that demonstrated the program's impact across multiple military installations. Since our pilot launch 2 years ago, the Navigator program has supported over 800 military cancer patients across 15 installations and all service branches. Patient satisfaction scores consistently exceed 95%, and we've documented significant improvements in treatment compliance, mental health outcomes, and successful return-to-duty rates among program participants. Admiral Hayes watched Sarah's presentation with deep satisfaction, recognizing how naturally she had evolved into a national leader in military cancer care. Her combination of personal experience, analytical skills, and genuine commitment to helping others had made her uniquely effective at building support for the program among both medical professionals and military leadership. Sarah continued her presentation by highlighting specific success stories that illustrated the program's impact. Petty Officer Jessica Chun, whom I had the privilege of supporting as my first navigator assignment, completed her cancer treatment successfully and was promoted to first class last month. She now serves as a navigator herself, supporting newly diagnosed military personnel while maintaining her full-time duties as an intelligence specialist. The audience responded positively to these success stories, understanding that they represented not just individual victories, but proof of concept for systemic approaches to supporting military cancer patients. Sarah had learned that concrete examples of positive outcomes were essential for building institutional support for innovative programs. Master Sergeant David Rodriguez, one of our original navigators, has established navigator programs at 3 Air Force installations and has trained over 40 navigator volunteers. His work demonstrates how the program model can be adapted to different service cultures while maintaining core principles of peer support and practical guidance. Sarah's presentation included detailed information about navigator training requirements, patient matching protocols, and program administration systems that had been refined through 2 years of implementation experience. The national launch represented not just expansion to additional installations, but standardization of best practices that had emerged from pilot programs. Dr. Williams stood to provide the clinical perspective on the program's impact, emphasizing how navigator support had improved patient outcomes across multiple metrics. We've documented significant improvements in treatment compliance, appointment adherence, and mental health status among navigator program participants compared to military cancer patients receiving standard care, she explained. The peer support component appears to be particularly effective at reducing anxiety and depression while improving overall quality of life during treatment. The medical data was compelling, but Sarah knew that the program's long-term success would depend on continued support from military leadership who understood its value for personnel retention and readiness. She was gratified to see several flag officers in the audience, including Admiral Janet Morrison, the Surgeon General of the Navy, whose endorsement had been crucial for securing program funding and institutional support. Admiral Morrison addressed the audience following the formal presentations, emphasizing the program's alignment with broader military priorities. The Military Cancer Navigator Program represents the kind of innovative thinking we need to address complex challenges facing our service members. By providing comprehensive support for military cancer patients, we're not only improving individual outcomes, but strengthening our overall force readiness and demonstrating our commitment to caring for our people throughout their service careers. The national launch event included breakout sessions where attendees could learn about specific aspects of program implementation, navigator training, and patient support protocols. Sarah facilitated several of these sessions, sharing practical insights she had gained through her evolution from navigator to program administrator to national director. During one particularly engaging breakout session, a young Army captain asked about the challenges of maintaining navigator programs alongside regular military duties. Sarah's response drew from her extensive experience managing these competing demands. The time commitment is significant, typically 8 to 10 hours per month for active navigators, but the personal and professional rewards make it worthwhile, she explained. Many navigators report that their peer support work has enhanced their leadership skills and provided valuable experience in counseling and crisis management that benefits their primary military roles. She continued, military commands have generally been very supportive of navigator participation once they understand the program's benefits. We provide commanders with clear information about time commitments and ensure that navigator duties are scheduled to minimize conflicts with primary responsibilities. The afternoon concluded with a ceremony recognizing the achievements of the original navigator cohort and announcing plans for continued program expansion. Sarah was presented with the Navy Commendation Medal in recognition of her leadership in developing and implementing the Navigator program, an honor that reflected both her individual contributions and the institutional value of her work. Admiral Hayes spoke during the awards ceremony, providing personal reflections on the program's development and Sarah's role in its success. Lieutenant Commander Martinez represents the very best of military service, the ability to transform personal challenges into contributions that benefit others and strengthen our entire organization. Her courage in sharing her cancer experience and her dedication to helping other military cancer patients has created something truly remarkable. The promotion to lieutenant commander had been announced earlier that morning, recognizing Sarah's expanding leadership responsibilities and her proven effectiveness in managing complex organizational initiatives. The promotion represented not only personal advancement, but institutional recognition that her work was valued at the highest levels of military leadership. As the ceremony concluded and attendees began networking during the reception, Sarah found herself in conversation with Admiral Morrison about future possibilities for expanding Navigator concepts to address other health challenges facing military personnel. The success of the Cancer Navigator program suggests that peer support models might be valuable for military personnel facing other significant health challenges, Admiral Morrison observed. Have you given any thought to how these concepts might be applied to mental health support, traumatic brain injury recovery, or other conditions that impact military readiness? Sarah had indeed considered these possibilities, recognizing that the fundamental principles underlying the Navigator program could potentially be adapted to address various health and wellness challenges within the military community. I think there's enormous potential for applying peer support models more broadly, she replied. The key factors that make the Cancer Navigator program successful, shared experience, practical guidance, and institutional support, could certainly be relevant for other health challenges. The question is how to adapt the model while maintaining the effectiveness we've demonstrated with cancer patients. Admiral Morrison's interest in program expansion reflected broader military recognition that innovative approaches to personnel support could yield significant benefits for both individual service members and overall organizational effectiveness. Sarah found herself increasingly positioned to lead such initiatives, a responsibility she embraced with both excitement and determination. Later that evening, as Sarah reflected on the day's events in her hotel room, she thought about the remarkable journey that had brought her from that uncomfortable examination room to national leadership in military cancer care. The program that had begun with Admiral Hayes' recognition of her courage had evolved into something neither of them could have imagined, a comprehensive support system that was transforming the experience of military cancer patients throughout the armed forces. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Jessica Chun, now Navigator Chun, who was supporting her own cohort of cancer patients while pursuing advancement in her intelligence career. Saw the ceremony coverage online. So proud to have been your first assignment. Thank you for showing me what was possible. Sarah smiled as she read the message, recognizing that Jessica's success represented not only the effectiveness of the Navigator program, but the continuing cycle of support that connected military cancer survivors across all service branches and duty stations. What had begun as a moment of personal vulnerability had become something much larger, a legacy of service that would continue impacting military personnel for years to come. The national launch of the Military Cancer Navigator program marked not an ending, but a beginning, the establishment of a foundation that would support thousands of military cancer patients while continuing to evolve and expand in response to emerging needs and opportunities. Sarah's journey from patient to navigator to national program director had demonstrated that even the most challenging personal experiences could be transformed into contributions of lasting value, creating change that extended far beyond individual circumstances. As she prepared for sleep that night, Sarah felt a deep sense of gratitude for the unexpected path that had brought her to this point. The scars she had once hidden beneath her uniform had become the foundation for work that gave meaning and purpose to everything she had endured. Admiral Hayes' respectful silence in that examination room years earlier had created space for a conversation that changed not only her own life, but the lives of countless military personnel who would benefit from the program they had built together. The program's success stood as proof that military medicine could evolve to address not only the clinical aspects of serious illness, but the complex human needs of service members facing health challenges while maintaining their commitment to duty, honor, and service to their country. In transforming her most difficult personal experience into a resource for others, Sarah had discovered that true healing often comes not from hiding our scars, but from finding ways to help others navigate the challenges that created them. Admiral Hayes smiled, clearly pleased by her response. "I was hoping you would say that, Lieutenant. Your combination of personal experience, leadership skills, and communication abilities makes you an ideal candidate for navigator training. I should mention that the program is designed to launch with a pilot cohort of 6 navigators, and you would be among the founding members if you choose to participate." The significance of being a founding member was not lost on Sarah. This would mean not only providing direct support to cancer patients, but also helping to shape the program's development and establish best practices that would guide its implementation across multiple military installations. When would training begin, and what's the timeline for launching patient services? She asked. "We're hoping to begin navigator training in January, with the first patient assignments starting in March. The timeline allows for comprehensive training while ensuring we can respond to immediate needs within the military cancer patient population." Admiral Hayes closed his folder and leaned back in his chair, his expression reflecting both satisfaction with the program's development and appreciation for Sarah's willingness to participate. "Lieutenant, I want you to know how much I value your openness to this opportunity. Your courage in sharing your story and your commitment to helping others represents the very best of military service values." As Sarah prepared to leave the meeting, she reflected on how dramatically her perspective on her cancer experience had evolved. What had once been a private struggle she endured while maintaining her military career was becoming an opportunity to contribute to something larger than herself, a program that could transform the experience of military cancer patients for years to come. "Thank you for this opportunity, sir," she said as she stood to leave. "I'm honored to be considered for the founding navigator cohort, and I'm excited about the possibility of helping other military personnel navigate challenges I understand firsthand." Admiral Hayes stood as well, extending his hand in a gesture that reflected both professional respect and personal appreciation. "The honor is mine, Lieutenant. I look forward to working with you to make this program a success." Walking across the base that evening, Sarah felt a sense of purpose and excitement she hadn't experienced in years. The program Admiral Hayes had described represented not only an opportunity to help others, but a chance to transform her most difficult personal experience into something genuinely valuable for the military community she had dedicated her life to serving.